I'll go ahead and introduce you, and then I'll kind of let you take the stage. Does that work for you?
Perfect. Yep.
Okay, so thanks everybody for joining us today. This seems to be a really popular book, and I've got to tell you, when Judy and I first met, it was probably right around the time that COVID hit the ground, right? And her and I were talking about actually doing, I found her on the Gallup website. She is actually a certified Strengths Finders coach. And so her and I got to talking, and we've actually brought her on board as part of our new Lead Institute, who's going to be delivering the Strength Finders assessments to our Lead Institute class and coaching them. So that's actually coming up next week. But as part of what Judy is looking to do for us, she offered, I think she had just gotten through this book and thought, I need to start getting the word out about these habits and creating good habits that make a difference. So she offered this as an opportunity to our alumni to participate in. And we actually had about 30 people sign up for this. So I think there's going to be some people probably popping in a little bit later, because there was a little bit of confusion with the start time for this. But hopefully, I'll be looking, I'll be watching and making sure that we're getting people in when they want to join us. Okay, Judy?
That's terrific. Thank you.
So a little bit about Judy. So Judy is the president of Revenue Resources out in Independence, right? And she is an entrepreneur, a business executive, a coach, as I mentioned, a mentor, an innovator, and a community volunteer. And what I liked about Judy when I was looking at her profile on the Gallup website was the fact that she likes to work with nonprofits. So she was a shoo-in for us at Leadership. So she's committed her career to helping businesses and individuals achieve accelerated levels of success. Her engagements involve the innovative delivery of business consulting, executive coaching, organizational development, which she does with Root Candle right here in Medina, and consulting, sales and marketing programs, which I believe you also do with Root Candle, strategic planning, training and leadership development initiatives with those organizations and or individuals who want to positively impact their performance and skills. So again, there she was, a shoo-in for our Lead Institute. She has over 25 years of business leadership experience, of which she spent half of her career at Fortune 50 companies and organizations. She teaches and facilitates and is a guest lecturer for select continuing education, undergraduate and graduate level courses at the University of Akron, Cleveland State University, Baldwin Wallace University, and Kent State University. She's got a bachelor's degree in business administration from my alma mater, Bowling Green State University. She's got a master's and also a master's in business administration from Cleveland State University. So without further ado, I introduce you to Judy Bodenhammer.
Thank you, Terry. It's a pleasure. Well, welcome everybody. And today we're going to have hopefully just a nice conversation about this terrific book, Atomic Habits, and what you see on the screen. It is, I had the opportunity actually participate in a session where James Clear was actually sharing his insights on this. So he gave us his deck. So part of the deck that you'll see today is James Clear. So from the author, consider it a signature, a signed copy of your book, because he gave us that chance to use this. So when we think about today and we think about what we're wanting to accomplish, what I'd like you to do is write down on the piece of paper I asked you to put in front of you, what are your positive habits? And maybe put a vertical line down that sheet, because guess what else is coming? Maybe what are those not so positive habits? So why don't you write down, what are your positive habits? All right, so I'm going to give you about another couple of minutes, because what I want you to do is conversely on, and right next to that, write down your not so positive habits. Ted, I can't see you. Are you good?
I'm good.
All right. I'll keep checking in on you every once in a while. All right, so you've got that down, and I want you to kind of keep that in the context. You're going to have a chance in some of the breakout sessions to talk about things you may want to improve, but we're going to spend a little time really now talking about radical change and kind of the world we're living in today, right? So here we are, 6 months into COVID season, right? By show of hands, how many of you have developed, oh, like you can't see show hands, but that's okay. In the chat room, maybe, or in the chat room, why don't you tell us how many of you have developed some good habits during COVID, kind of with the plus sign, and how many of you have developed maybe some not so good habits during COVID? So I'm going to go to chat. Good, a lot of pluses. Both. You know, I was sharing with Terry this morning that I have to confess to you all, during this time, I have really developed some pretty bad habits. I was always a regular workout person. Now with the gyms closing, I haven't pivoted to figure out how to change that. And I have been pretty bad as it relates to work and life balance, you know, being at home more often. I think that's a challenge for many leaders right now. So those are a couple things as I was looking at this and saying, all right, I need to start to make some small changes pretty quickly. So thank you. It looks like many of you have developed some positive habits over time. If any of you be willing to share what some of those positive habits might have been. Terry, did you have a couple positive habits?
Yeah, I actually get up off my butt when I'm sitting at my desk at home. I force myself to actually get up and move around because, like you and I were talking about earlier, it's easy to sit there all day,
right,
and then regret it.
Good. How about you, Jamie?
Ones that I've developed during COVID.
Yep.
I've gotten a lot better about exercising during COVID, actually. I don't know. I was working from home for like a month, and then we went back to work. And I think while I was at home, I developed some pretty good habits of exercising, and I've kept those going. So I'm pretty happy with that. This is probably the longest stint that I've ever been consistently exercising in my whole life.
Excellent. Congratulations. That's awesome.
Thanks.
And I see from Carrie, she said she's gotten better at, she's picked up a habit of multitasking. I don't know, do you see that as positive or negative, Carrie? You can put that in the chat if you want. And then Anne was saying that she's making it a point to get outside. And Carrie said it's totally positive because she's able to maybe get more things done on a timely basis. So here's the thing about habits, right? And here's the whole premise about habits. And this is from James Clear. It's not about radical changes, but it's really about these small, little tiny improvements over time. He says, and you'll see this in this next slide, is that, if I can get, yeah, if you can improve 1% every day by the end of the year, whatever that is that you're talking about, you'll be 37 times better. Conversely, if you get 1% better at a bad habit, it whittles you down to just about nothing. So when we think about this, right, when we think about the power of tiny gains, right, how, you know, the beginning of the year, New Year's Eve, whatever that may be for you, so many of us have, you know, had these grandiose New Year's resolutions, and this is what my intentions are for the year. His premise is it's not about these big things. It's not about transformational things. It's about these little 1% improvements every day. that make a habit and they change your life. And if you think about it, that's something that you can stick with. And I think that is the whole premise. And that's what I loved about his book, is that it gave you the chance to really kind of stick with it. Because what he was talking about is habits are the compound interest of self-development. So what does that mean? So think about the compound interest. All right. Positive compounding are, productivity improvements. So accomplishing one extra task is a small feat in any given day, right? For all of us. But count that over an entire year or an entire career. That is about mastering a new set of skills. That is the compound interest of self-improvement. Conversely, negative thoughts. All right, so let's talk about this. So sometimes we do that. As leaders, we talk to ourselves about, oh, maybe I didn't handle that well. Maybe I'm not such a good leader. Maybe I'm not as strategic as I should be, right? So you condition yourself to interpret that that's the way you think about yourself, and you get caught in that loop, right? And the same is true about how you think of others. Once you fall into the habit of seeing a person as unjust or untrustworthy or selfish, it's hard for you to see them in a different way. So this is where the compounding can work for us or against us. Now let's think about this. Knowledge, the compounding of knowledge. All right, so learning, like you're doing here at lunch, you're having the chance to take a little break as far as eating, but then you're also getting the chance to learn something new, right? So learning one new idea won't necessarily make you a genius, right? But a commitment to lifelong learning can make your life transformative. One of the things that James, and I'll talk about this kind of at the end, one of the things that James Clear talks about, that a meta habit, one of those uber important habits, is reading. You'll love that, Jamie. It's reading. Because if you can read, you can solve anything, right? If you want to be a great workout person, you can solve it by reading what you have to do. If you want to learn a new language, you can read about it and you can execute that. Reading is an uber important skill and habit, and it must be a ritual for all of us. As leaders, it's really important that we read a lot, that you stay current, that you stay on trend, that you build your business acumen, because those are habits of leaders. All right. Now stress has a negative compounding effect, right? So we were talking about positive and negative. The frustration in traffic jams, the weight of parenting responsibilities that we have in COVID, right? The worry of making your financial ends meet, the strain of some health concerns. By themselves, they're common issues, right? When they're multiplied, they can become unmanageable, all right? And if they persist for years, it can actually create serious health issues for you. So this is why mindfulness, and you're seeing so much written about mindfulness and stress management and well-being. An interesting piece for you to know as leaders. I was just on a call with some accounting firms across the nation yesterday. And a study has been done amongst professional services. So it's accountants, lawyers, financial people, insurance people, the people in that kind of that, I want to say the white collar space. And I think it's true for everybody, is that in North America, 80% of the workforce has depression or anxiety right now because of COVID, 80%. Now, here's the scarier statistic. Only 10% of those people felt comfortable talking to their boss about that. So my friends, as leaders of your businesses, this is a habit perhaps that you have to really kind of figure out how you're going to be able to engage conversation with your people, right? So, and express and demonstrate maybe a little bit more empathy, a habit of empathy and gratitude. Those are going to be some of the things that we're going to talk about, are what you're going to have to do, just given the world that we're in, right? So I give you that as something to think about, to kind of noodle around as you're thinking about your leadership and the work that you do day to day as a leader. So let me get this one here. So I'm curious if you guys can take your mics off. You know, if James Clear's philosophy about 1% changes matter, why is it that we don't often make, why don't we make them more often? Why is that? So you'd have to unmute. Ted, are you unmuted?
Yeah, excuse me, I'm unmuted.
So why is it that we don't make these small changes more often?
I think
I
society
think what winds up
encourages it.
happening. Oh,
Go ahead.
go on.
All right, we'll let Ted go.
I think it's easy to get caught up in the whirlwind, just the day-to-day stuff that kind of consumes your time, and it's easy to kind of put those things off. Obviously, they're very important. It's the incremental, gains that you were talking about. Those are really important. But you got to answer emails and make phone calls and hit sales goals and get work done in order to kind of get a paycheck. So it's easy to put the other stuff off. But I think if you build it into your daily routine, it doesn't have to be another thing to just check off. It's just something you do.
It becomes a bit
So
of a
I think that's one of the main reasons.
right. It becomes a bit of a ritual. I mean, 40% of what we do every day is a habit. In this book, he'll talk about, when you get out of bed, you put one foot down, pretty much the same foot down every day. You tie your first shoe the same way. You brush your teeth the same way. These are habits. These are daily habits you don't even think about, right? You just do them. The question will be, what can you do to improve those? Or how do you stack those with other new habits that you want to grow to improve? So if someone else was trying to answer this question, I'm sorry, I didn't know who it was.
Yeah, no, that's okay. It's Janet. I think society focuses so much on dramatic and fast that to try and encourage someone to do something incrementally and more slowly is a much harder sell.
Well, Janet, very insightful, because that is true. Think about it. We reward big wins, right? We always talk about the big wins and these transformative leadership and all of this. And while that is true, and all those things are here, what's going to change you day to day is, if you believe what Clear's philosophy is about this, it is these 1% changes.
Mm-hmm.
The reason being is those are sustainable, right? And we're going to talk about, it's not about being the best writer in the world, right? It's, being the best published author. It's writing every day. That's the habit. So instead of going for the big goal, and we're going to talk about where, the goals versus systems and really the impact of those. So, and this is where, so Janet, you were perfect for this. All right. So when we think about the goals versus the systems, right? If you're struggling to improve, the problem isn't you, it is probably your system. So what do we mean by that? So when we think about these systems, the goal is for a professional football team is to win, for the Browns to just win, right? All right, so that would be good. For the Browns to win on a consistent basis, maybe get into the playoffs, all right? The system is what they do in practice every day, all right? The goal is to become a marathon runner. The system is, are you running every day? So where we fall is that we have the clarity of the goal. We don't have a system that gives us the ability to achieve that. So the thing I want you to think about is in the context of your leadership, right? Is have you set these goals and have you established a system that both you and your people can achieve them? And I think that's where we start to kind of, we're trying to balance, I told Terry, we're trying to balance both your personal development, but along with your leadership development as far as what you're bringing back to your organization. So when you think, and I think this is actually a very insightful thing, because it is not, you know, it's not about being, it's not about getting fit, right? That's the goal. I want to lose 20 pounds. That's the goal. It's, am I getting off my chair and putting my tennis shoes on and walking my dog every day? That's the 1% change. That's the system that will allow me to achieve that. So I think that that's also, you know, because we talk about goal setting, we talk about SMART goals, and we talk about all these things as leaders and in the business world. The question is, the foundational question is, what are we doing about our systems to make sure that those can be achieved? All right. So you do not rise to the level. It's not that you don't rise to the level of the goals, you fall to the level of your systems. And if those systems don't exist, you're probably not going to ultimately achieve the goal that you hope. So when we think about that, it's that alignment between the outcome that you have in your daily habits that you deliver to yourself and to your team. So how do you change a habit? So now here's where we're going to get into really what he's talking about. So we talked about the power of 1%. We talked about 1%, getting 1% better every day in whatever area you're trying to get to. By the end of a year, you'll be 37 times better at it. Conversely, if you get 1% worse, you'll whittle down to about nothing, right? It creates failure, right? So if I continue to stop not working out, my health is going to be impacted in the long haul, all right? So that's why I have to remember my system is not, you know, I have to make sure that my system works for this. So in his book, he talks about there's four stages to habit formation. So I'm going to let you take a minute and write these 4 down, and then you're going to get some, we're going to talk about what they are. So the first is the cue, all right? And the cue is a trigger that tells your brain to initiate a habit. All right. So, you know, because here's the thing about the brain, you know, and so much of is written about positive, you know, positive social science in the brain right now, especially as it relates to habits and to leadership, right? There's so much neuroscience, which is just cool stuff. If you know, one of the things that you could read about is really the neuroscience of leadership, because what happens is our brains are basically pretty lazy, right? What happens is we form these habits and it doesn't have to really think about things. The greatest amount of energy is used when you're learning, right? When you're learning new things or when things are uncomfortable, that's when the brain really has to work. When it's on the habit or the ritual, it doesn't have to exhaust a lot of energy. It's just like when I get out of bed, my right foot goes down, my left foot goes down. Or when I put my shoes on, I tie my right foot first, I tie my tennis shoe on my left foot first. It's just natural things, and your brain just gets accustomed to doing that, right? So the cue has to be what's going to tell your brain to initiate the habit. The craving, the second part of the 4 stages of habit, is what is the predictable outcome compels you to act. So I crave to get back in this dress that I was in pre-COVID that I can't get in right now, right? So that's my craving. I need to make sure that I can do that. And I'm going to go through a couple other examples in kind of the real world. The response is the actual habit. It's what you do, right? What you do with that particular habit. And then the 4th is the reward, the result that really satisfies the craving. So let me give you a couple of examples. All right. So your phone buzzes even though you have it on silent, right? So you've got your phone buzzes. So that's the cue, the buzzing of the phone. The craving is you want to learn what the contents of that message is. So that's what you crave. It's like, I want to know who sent me a message. I want to know what that is. The response is you grab the phone and you read the text. The reward is you satisfy your craving to read the message by grabbing your phone, which now becomes associated with your phone buzzing. All right, so let me give you another. You wake up. That's the cue. You want to feel alert. That's the craving. What do? The response? We grab a cup of coffee. So you satisfy your craving to feel alert by drinking coffee, which becomes associated with waking up. All right. So so this is how all of these systems work together. All right. Here's another one. So out while you're walking, right? You smell a donut. A small donut shop. You see a small donut shop as you're walking down the street. You smell the donuts. You begin to crave a donut because they smell so delicious. You buy the donut, which is the response, and you eat it. So you satisfy your craving to eat a donut by buying the donut, and by buying the donut, it becomes associated with walking down the street with your dog. So these are how habits form in our brain. And so this is the 4 stages of a habit: the cue, the craving, the response, and the reward. And you don't even know. See, this is the thing about habits. You don't even know it. It just happens, right? It just happens over time. I mean, you don't think about it. The first 2 phases of it, all right, so let's think about, like, there's a problem phase and a solution phase, which are the first 2. So a problem phase would be you hit a stumbling block on a project at work. The craving is you feel stuck and want to relieve your frustration. All right. So you pull out your phone and you check social media. So that could be the response to the stress, right? So you want to just kind of distract yourself, maybe feel better. So you satisfy your craving to feel relieved. You check your social media, becomes associated with feeling stalled at work. So that can be where the solution phase that maybe is not as positive, right? Another example would be you walk into a dark room. Cue. What happens? You want to be able to see. That's the craving. The response. You flip the light on the switch. So you satisfy your craving to see. You've accomplished that. You turn the light switch on, becomes associated with being in a dark room. So those are how these things get tied together. All right. So this is kind of the anatomy of a habit. So how do you change a habit? All right. So this is where we're now getting into how do you start to change the habit. So the first law that he talks about, and it really is really an interesting perspective, is, the best ways to start, thinking about how you're going to change some of these habits are, you have to, first law of this is you must make it obvious. All right. And we're going to talk a little bit about the importance of making it obvious. So if you think about one of the most overlooked drivers of your habits are your physical environment. All right. So if you walk into your family room, right, pay attention to where what direction your couches and your chairs are facing. More often than not, they're facing the television. If you want to watch less television, you need to change the orientation of that room. All right. If you want to learn how to play guitar, you should put the guitar in the center of that room so that it is an obvious cue that that's what you want to do. You want to learn how to play guitar. It must become obvious, right? It has to be, you have to make sure that it's is visible. If you want to read more, right? We talked about that being a meta habit. Put the book on top of your pillow when you make your bed each morning. You want to eat more fruit. You want to have wellness. You want to eat healthier. So you want to eat fruit. Don't put fruit in the crisper drawer of your refrigerator. Put it on a bowl in the center of your island so that it is visible. There was a study that they did at Mass General. They wanted people to drink more water. All right. So what they did is in the cafeteria, they put these kiosks of bottled water, you know, high visual appeal near near places where people very frequently went, near the cashiers, near the snacks, near a couple other places, you know, critically around the perimeter of the place. What they found in a month's time, they had 25% increase in water sales because it was visible. They didn't have to go into the cooler and pull it out. They had it right there. So the cue, make it obvious. If you want to change a habit, you're going to need to make it obvious. And you're going to get the chance to kind of talk with each other about what you want to do. All right. Number 2 is you have to make it attractive. One of the things that we see a lot with people is, you know, like, I want to be a better business owner, or I want to be a better leader, or I want to be a better person. And everything they do around it surrounds negative thinking. So you have to find a way to make it very attractive for you. One of the things that he recommends, and actually it's an interesting thing that I think I'm going to try myself, is as you look at the habits you want to change, pull out a calendar that's just got the squares or the dates. And for every date that you do it, you put an X about that, right? So I'm going to feel good. That's also going to be very satisfying. That's going to hit my reward thing, because I'm going to see all these X's that I accomplished it. So it's going to be not only a cue, because it's going to be obvious. It's going to be attractive because I crave it, because I don't want to have a blank square on that calendar. It's going to be a reward because I'm going to feel satisfied because I accomplished this. And I have to make sure that it's easy so that I can do it. So when you think about making and creating new habits and these laws of change, right, you have to make sure that it is also easy. Sometimes we make our goals and our habits too big and too bold. I mean, we talk about BHAG goals with companies, and we talk about all of this stuff, you know, which, how many times do you really accomplish it? And the question you have to ask yourself is, as I think about myself and I think about my team, what's better, if we make little progress every day, or we put these big goals out there that we never accomplish? That's a question you have to ask yourself as leaders, right? And how do I make it obvious? How do I make it attractive to them, both myself and them? How do I make it easy for them to accomplish that they can do it? And how do I make it satisfying? What's their reward? How do we compliment them? Because so much about habits is about talking about bad habits instead of talking about good habits. All right, so I think that also becomes, I think that was a really interesting perspective. And I think one of the other things is kind of the opposite, the inversion of this, is that if you don't want it to happen, you know, if it's invisible, you're never going to see it. It's not going to be a cue to you. If it's unattractive and you don't like to do it, I don't want to do it. I work with accountants and lawyers a lot. And they hate business development. They hate it. They will tell you this all the time. It's unattractive for them. So my goal as a person and as a coach is to find a way to make it attractive, because they hate it. The same thing may be true with some of your people, or even some of the things that you're thinking about. If you're coming from a negative perspective, you're never going to accomplish the change. If you make it so difficult, they are not going to accomplish. And because at the end of it all, it's just unsatisfying. You don't enjoy it, you don't feel successful, and you stop doing it. That's why the habit never becomes an area of change. So let me stop and just ask a quick question. If anybody has any questions about this, because we're going to then move into a quick breakout, Terry. So are there any questions, Janet or Ted, or I can't see, let's see who else is on here. Randy or Ann or Jamie, questions?
Randy said no questions.
No questions, okay. Rick, how about you? You got it? You're good? Does it make sense?
Yeah, it does. You think of a lot of analogies in life, things that we observe. It all kind of comes together, what you're explaining.
So, okay, perfect. Now I'm going to give you a couple of, thank you, Rick. I'm going to give you a couple examples of applying some strategies, right? And here's a sentence I want you to write this down, all right? I will put in brackets, meditate, the behavior you want to change. I will meditate at 5:30 a.m. So put in time, in, and then put location. One of the studies that Clear talks about in here is he talks about people that they were embarking upon a new workout routine. And they had three groups. They had the control group, right? Where it's like, you know, everyone was committed to doing this. They had these three different groups. They had the one group that was, they just knew what they had to do and they were tasked to go do it. The second group was given the same task, and then every day they were to read a motivational statement, to try to motivate them to do it. Visual pictures, things like that. The third group was given, again, the same workout routine, but then they wrote this down. I will work out at 7 a.m. at home each day. Now here's the results. It was 31% of the people accomplished after 30 days regular workouts in control group 1, 31%. The ones that had the motivational, you know, we have all these little motivational things, the motivational quotes that come to us every day. It was only 38%. 91% was group 3 because they had made a commitment to saying what the behavior is that they were going to do, what time they were going to do it, and what location they were going to do it in. So this gives, again, we are people of habits and rituals. This gives you the opportunity to really think through what it is and how it is and when you're going to do it. And I think that's one of the things that was really interesting for me to think about is don't just write the goal, write the time and the location. So again, that goes to that whole proximity piece. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to ask Terry to put people in groups of 2, and I'm going to give you the instructions before you go into this. I'm going to have you pair up in 2s. I'm going to ask you to think about a habit you want to improve. Remember, it doesn't have to be big. Let's say you want to, all right, like I shared with you, I want to start working out more. I want to get back to my regular workout routine. So my cue is going to be that dress that I don't fit into right now. I'm going to hang it on the back of my door in my bathroom. All right. So there it is in proximity. It's going to be that it's my cue, my reminder every day that I need to put my tennis shoes on, take my dog outside and start walking. All right. So, and I promise myself is I'm going to walk 3 times a day to try to get back to some of the wellness that I have. So what I'm going to ask you to do in pairs is to identify a habit, and then identify what that cue would be, what it is that's going to make it attractive to you, the craving, how you're going to work your reps, what are you going to do, and how are you going to reward yourself. So I'm going to give you 5 minutes, maybe 6, 3 minutes for each person. How about that? 6 minutes. So we'll come back at 12:47. So I'm going to ask you to come up with one habit, what your cue is, what your craving is, what your response is, and what your reward will be. And we're going to ask you to share a little bit of when you come back. So Terry, if you can split them into breakouts of 2, that would be awesome.
Okay, I will. So there's gonna be about 2 or 3, because we've got 15 people, so we have an odd number.
Okay. Well, I won't be in one,
Okay,
so it'll be 14.
okay, all right, ready? I'll give a 1-minute warning too.
Perfect, thank you. So go have fun with your habits, everybody.
All righty.
Very good.
So we got a question about the slides.
That they want them?
Yeah, they want them, yeah, because they didn't, because you weren't advancing them.
Oh, it's showing on advancing on mine.
Oh, really? Because it's not showing on here.
Oh, really?
Yeah. You know what? 'Cause I don't think you may not have shared.
Hold on. You don't see this? Do you see this?
I do now, but before we didn't see it. Yeah, I don't think you shared it.
Okay, let me,
Yeah. So well, yeah, if you want, you can send them to me
yeah,
or
I'll have to extract them out of a larger deck because it's just a few
okay.
of the slides.
Okay. We lost somebody. I'm not sure who we lost. We lost one person.
And Jamie's not in a group.
Hi, whoever I was paired with, I don't think was there. I think it may have been the person that was calling in.
Okay, let's see here.
So Jamie, do you wanna share with Terry?
Yeah, we can do that. Jamie, can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
Okay. So let's see here. Do you have a habit?
I have a habit. I'm turning my I'd say working out is one, and adjusting that with the pandemic because I was in a similar situation where I wasn't being as active, but finding alternative ways to remain active.
And I would probably be in that same boat. I was sharing that with Judy earlier. It's you know, working from home, I feel like I'm almost more productive. And I tend to find myself working longer hours.
Mhm.
And so I actually have to force myself to shut it down like 2 or 3 times a day and just go outside and sit out on my patio or take a walk or go talk to the neighbor, do whatever. I mean, I've one of the habits I've created is that I do take a lunch now. Usually when I'm in the office, I can just keep working, but I take that break when I'm at home to actually take time to make lunch and sit down and do something other than work.
Well, that's good.
That's
Mhm.
great.
Yeah. So I guess the craving would be the food.
And admittedly, I thought that was going to be a problem for me as well, but I think I put myself in the basement and not on the level of the kitchen, and I think that's been helping.
That helps a lot, I'm sure.
Yes.
You know what? Everybody I talk to is like, it's like the refrigerator keeps calling them, or they're like, "Are you
Mhm.
back? Are you back?" I mean, and one of the things that one of the things that Claire talked about is how we've evolved from like the caveman time. And he was saying how, we used to have to exhaust energy to actually consume food, right? We had to either go gather it with berries or hunt it down, whatever. Now we just call Uber Eats or DoorDash, and we don't even have to exhaust anything. It comes right to our doors. So it's, again, a habit that we have to really start to think about.
Sure.
Yep. And they actually deliver coffee. Starbucks delivers coffee now.
Okay.
We had some of our shop floor associates last week, because I go in 2 days a week. It was a DoorDash or something to Starbucks, and I just laughed. I'm like, wow, you must really want to treat yourself today, because we offer free coffee at work. It's not that great, but
Not the
it was
pumpkin
just
spice.
funny. Very true.
Not the pumpkin spice, right? It's people want pumpkin. They want their pumpkin spice right now, Jamie.
They do. We just hired someone from Starbucks that started Monday, and I was teasing her. I'm like, she made her last pumpkin spice latte.
That's so funny.
Oh, that is funny. So
Mm.
People are, I mean, think about that. That's just a little ritual that people have started in fall. And marketers count on those things, right? They so
Mhm.
count on those things.
Right.
So it works in a lot of different ways and from business perspective. Let me ask you this. What do you see on the screen right now? Do you see the queue?
Yeah.
All right. all
yeah,
right.
I think the issue is that you hadn't shared it. You hadn't-
Okay. I had the other screen. Because I'm flipping between two. All right.
I
So
think that-
I will make sure at the end of this, because I'm just going to have this up on the screen when they come back. Why don't you give them a 1-minute warning?
I did that already. So
Okay.
you want me to bring them back, or you want me to give them
That
another?
would be great. Why don't you end it now?
Okay.
I see some chats here.
Okay, that gave them the 1 minute. So they got 40 seconds. They're starting to come back now.
So is everybody back? It looks like most, I think we've got most back. So who'd want to share? I'm curious. I'd love to hear from one or two of the groups. Some of the behaviors or the habits you'd like to change, and some of the things that you came up with as far as a cue, a craving, a response, and a reward. So who'd like to share what, and use everybody as accountability partners, because you guys are alumni and you talk to each other. This would be a great way to help reinforce the behavior. Who'd like to share?
I can go first.
Great.
This is Ted. So we're actually in the process of moving. It's one of those things where there's a lot of work that goes along with that. You have to fix up the old place. You have to move everything over. You have to get everything put away to the new place. You have to fix things up there. So, you know, that takes a lot of work, a lot of time and effort. So I know the kids have been asking me to kind of play with them. I have a 4-year-old son and a 6-year-old daughter, and you know, they don't understand. They just care about, hey, you know, we don't care what has to get done. We just want you to play with us. And obviously that's been kind of put on the back burner as I've been trying to get stuff done. So my cue is going to be, you know, when I get home from work, I'm going to take time out and I'm going to play with them a certain amount of time, you know, before or after dinner. And I'm going to make that into a habit. Obviously the craving is going to be, I want to play with them, and they want to play with me, and we want to spend time together. And the reward would be, you know, getting to spend time together and seeing the enjoyment and getting the enjoyment from spending time with them. So,
And the stress relief to you, because it's no longer guilt, it's love, right?
exactly.
I mean, that's a cool way to look at it. That is awesome, Ted. Thank you. Who else would like to share?
I can go.
Who's this, please?
This is Rick.
Hi, Rick.
Hello. Yeah, I was talking to Randy Bennett, and one of the things that with the COVID virus, I've basically taken the approach of working, not going into the office to work. I always work partially from home, but now I'm working pretty much exclusively from home, and I'll visit the office on occasion, only on an as-needed basis. But in so doing, I've taken and merged my personal life with my work life, and my office is like burgeoning with paperwork and files and books and things all over. And there's times when you go to look for something where you know where it's in that stack, so you end up sifting through things. So it's kind of inefficient, somewhat of a burden, because I got a lot of stuff in here that needs to be cleaned up. And so the cue is, you know, I got to do something. All I have to do is walk in this room and I know I got to do something. So the craving, I guess, would be, I guess the craving is I need to straighten things out. The response is going to be where I used to have a commute time driving to the office, which is about a half hour. Why not just take that first thing in the morning when I'm not driving and just utilize that time to get ahead that way, rather than digging in right away to work. You know, I always have that feeling like, well, if I knock off some emails and respond to certain people right away, then I'll get ahead of that. But the reality is you're always behind when you're in sales. You're never really caught up. So why not take that time, organize yourself, and then the payoff is going to be, in the end, I will be far more efficient. I won't have to dig through paperwork for things. Certainly wouldn't forget maybe an occasional thing here and there because it's in a stack of papers. And of course, the satisfaction of coming into an office that's clean. So a great payoff.
All right, so Rick, I'm gonna use your example. So, because listen, I feel you. If you'd see, it's a good thing that the camera's up here, not lower, right? So I'm going to talk about just a second on bundling. All right. So I want to talk about stacking habits. So what I heard you say a couple things that might be a good way to stack habits. So at the end of the day, one of the things you talked about is organization. You talked about making sure you didn't miss anything. So one of the other small habits could be that you make your to-do list for the next day, right? At the end of your day, you clean up your paper there. So you're stacking two habits so that when you walk in the morning, it is your craving is satisfied. You know what you're going to do. You have a clean desk and you're ready to rock. So that's how Clear talks about stacking habits, is utilize a couple of small things. You know, you want to do your to-do list, your high important things for the next morning, rather than wait until the next day. Do it the night before, get your papers all organized and get out of that office, close the door. When you walk in, it's like, I'm ready to start the day.
I like it.
All right. So, I mean, I'm going to do it too. The reason when you said that, I'm like, I'm going to do that with Rick because I think that I've got the same thing, and I want to feel better every morning when I walk in instead of him facing a mess. Because that is how you start your day, is the intention of that day. And if when you walk and you open that door and you're like stressed out, that sets the tone for the day, right?
Yep.
If when Ted's talking about when he comes home and the first thing he does is he embraces his little ones, that sets the tone for his evening. And that's a good way of looking at it too. So I love it. Thank you. And stacking, Ted, the exercise that you're going to get with working with you, playing with your kids is also going to be another benefit, right? So you're going to get well-being from stress management, a lot of love, and then you've also got some wellness going on because you're getting more exercise than sitting in a chair in the office. So there's
Definitely.
some habits. That's great. All right, we are kind of rounding, and I'll get you, and I'm sorry, I had the other deck up here, but I'll get you these slides so that, and Terry will get them to you. But these are the four: the cue, the craving, the response, the reward, and kind of how it works versus the opposite of it, right? I'm going to ask you then to take a look. I'm going to do a quick recap, and I'm going to switch slide decks real quick. Let me stop this share and start this share. Anybody, while I'm doing this, anybody want to share any other habits that they want to work on?
Randy, can you tell your story?
I'm looking for Randy on here. There he is.
Please.
Here he comes.
Sorry, I'm a little slow with this thing.
You're doing good. There he is.
So, about March, everything was ominous and dark, and all we did was like kind of stay home. And like between the holidays and all of the COVID-19 stuff, like I gained an extra bit of weight and just felt horrible. So what we did was kind of talked about it and came up with a plan. The plan was the cue was looking in the mirror and feeling bad, right? The the craving was to not feel bad and see something different. The response was to establish a healthy eating plan, a healthy menu, a routine, and make some definite choices, right? So since May 1st, I've lost 37 pounds.
Oh,
Yeah.
Awesome.
Wow.
Yeah.
Bravo.
Awesome.
So it's good, I feel a lot better. And I think it, be something that's sustained because changes have happened. We're through the transition of a lot of things, and it's a positive change. So
That's terrific. Thank
Yeah.
you. That, congratulations. That is,
Yeah.
you're our superhero for the day, Randy.
Well, I don't know
Thank-
about that, but I got a lot, like, I could show you the belly here, but there's a ways to go. I mean,
Well, there's actually there's a new fitness program out there that actually has a mirror that shows you what you could be if you continue down the workout. So this is all about the craving, right? It makes you crave that body that you want, all right? So that's good. I think that's awesome. So let me kind of round this up. I want to make sure, do you see positive leadership habits in practice?
No, you gotta share it, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm trying here. Where is this? You know what? Do you have it because you had the breakouts? Because I can't, it won't let me get back to it.
Well, let's see. I'll go ahead and make you the host.
Yeah.
Go ahead and try that.
Let me close this. Or he says I'm the host.
there is one thing. Is that the Three Stooges I see in the background, Rick? I think over Rick's left shoulder.
It is.
That's
Yeah.
the Three Stooges.
That's funny.
Gotta have idols.
So you got to have eyeballs. Now, do you see this? Do you see this?
I think you've got to go to the document, go to the PowerPoint,
I did. I don't understand.
and then go back into share screen and hit share.
It's not even letting me get to my Zoom, my normal Zoom here either. So, all right, let me just try one more time here. Share screen here. Let me try one more time. I went out and went back in. Do you see this?
Let's go. Yeah, there you go.
Okay. All right. Sorry, technology sometimes, I am usually pretty good. It sometimes befuddles me. These are positive habits that are in practice for leaders, and we will send this out. I think just a couple of things to think about, what, again, the context of how we started today, which is workforce now is more stressed than it ever has been. We all are, all right? So it's about mindset, right? It's about the ability for you to practice, and maybe one of the habits is practicing gratitude with your team, with your colleagues, with your family. Learn something new every day. Every day, learn something new. Have a good laugh, and sometimes it's at yourself, all right? Like I'm like, I'll be laughing. It's like, all right, I couldn't get my silly Zoom to work right here. Smile at someone in spite of the mask, right? Because people can see your eyes light up, right? So it's important that you do. Hey, in today's world where it is really dicey and there's a lot of strain on relationships, a little kindness and a little smile does a lot of good. All right. Give a heartfelt compliment to a colleague, to one of your people that work with you, to your family member. All right. Tell people how much you appreciate them. And then above and beyond, you practice kindness every single day where you can. Practice a random act of kindness matters every single day. All right. So with that, I'm going to give you one last thing to look at, and you'll get this. And this is the top 10 rules for success from Clear. Build good habits. Put in the reps. The only way you get to do this, like Randy was talking about, you have to do this, and you have to do it every day, and you have to practice, and you have to work it. You have to work it from a positive perspective. You have to challenge yourself. If you're not challenged, challenge yourself, right? Exercise and read. Life's great meta habit. Jamie's happy to hear that from the library system. Keep reading, right? Have a plan. Focus on getting rid of the bad habits, and sometimes it means that you have to get those things out of your way. I think was actually, who was saying that they were in the basement as opposed to on the first floor where they're near the refrigerator? Somebody was saying, because that could be a bad habit when people go to the refrigerator too often. They actually put their office in the basement. So you get out of the way of the habit. Develop expertise, which means a lot of times you have to work it and you have to write it down. Change your environment. Make sure that environment works for you. Change your identity. Randy talked about he didn't want to look that way. So he saw himself back the way he was. You have to change how you see yourself and the identity that you have. And focus on your systems, not just the goal. And with that, my friends, like I said, I'll share the deck. The last question people ask me quite often is, how often does it take to change a habit? And the answer is forever. Choosing a lifestyle you really want to live is all about small, sustainable changes that really make it happen. So with that, it is at top of the hour. I wish you a 1% better today and every day. And I look forward to seeing you sometime down the road. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
All right.
you.
You.
We'll, I'll work to get the slides out. I'll get the slides from Judy and then we'll send them out to everybody who participated today. So thanks everybody for joining us. And thank you, Judy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Rick, I'm with you, man.
All right. Team effort.
All right, see ya.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye-bye.